B4B TV. Real people, real stories, real Bradford.
Welcome everyone today to the first ever episode of B4B TV's City of Culture show. I'm your host today. My name is Dr. Sohail Ahmed, the chair of Bradford for Better, B4B, and thank you for joining us today. So what's this show about and what's it all about? If you haven't already heard, Bradford is the City of Culture 2025. Congratulations. And this show basically is a way of getting the message out to people. So there's a lot of questions out there. You know, what does City of Culture 2025 mean? And where do we go now? What happens next? And how the heck did we actually win? You know, there's a lot of questions out there. So hopefully this show and for future episodes, we're going to have people from the creative sector, cultural sector from Bradford, answering some of those questions, and maybe as we move closer on this journey to 2025, giving the community of Bradford and the people out there more of an insight as to what goes on behind the scenes and how people can get involved. So that's the whole idea behind the show, and this is the first episode, and we have a very special guest with us today. So we have with us today May McQuade from the City of Culture 2025 bid team. Welcome, May.
Thank you. I'm honoured to be here. Thanks, Sohail.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming along. So just a bit of background to May. May is a creative producer, freelance creative producer, an artist, dancer, and project manager, amongst many other things, which we're going to find out today. So as I was just saying before we went onto the show, I was trying to do some research and get some gossip and scoops on May here, but she's a very mysterious lady. So we got talking about all sorts. So there's so much to talk about today. But first question, we're just a week in from last Tuesday's announcement of being the City of Culture. How are you feeling?
I still can't quite believe it, but I'm elated. Yeah, I feel great, and I can feel other people feel great. You know, like I can feel the buzz, yes, of course, on the team, but also, you know, the sandwich shop that we've been going in at lunch and people around the mirror pool, and it's definitely a kind of buoyancy at the moment. So yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling really good.
Absolutely. So we will talk about the City of Culture in more detail, but let's start with you first, May. So tell us about yourself. Where were you born?
So I was born in Hebden Bridge, which is a little town, kind of 20 minutes-ish out of Bradford. Quite a different world, a valley. And yeah, it's beautiful there. I was brought up there I was actually born in the house that I lived in all the way up till I was 18. Yeah, quite a hippie childhood, I guess. Quite rural, quite out and about, and then I moved to Leeds and I trained as a dancer. So I didn't go to uni, I went to a dance school. There's a really great dance school in Chapeltown, and I did like a 3-year contemporary dance training, which was wild. I kind of thought it was going to be like Fame and I would get famous at the end, but it turns out it was it was a little bit different, a bit more serious. And then, yeah, I've been kind of working in the arts since then. It is funny, isn't it, when you try to list what you are. I do work on a lot of different projects. I really love working with young people, and I've done that since I've been really young. I've always, whether it's dance teaching with kids or, mental health projects that I've done more recently with young people. And then, getting into events. So some of that was running my own, and I lived in Manchester for a bit and I started running nights, kind of club nights, but with performative elements. And then since then, I've been really lucky to be employed doing that kind of thing. So doing like event production, creative producer, I guess is the word, and that's been festivals, it's been outdoor events, it's been family friendly stuff. A lot of that in Bradford. So I lived in Bradford up until last year. I'm back in Leeds now. Yeah, and obviously the most recent thing I've done, which is why we're here, is I've been working on the bid team that put the bid in for Bradford to be UK City of Culture. A year and a half I did on that. Yeah.
Great, well done. So what was your role on the bid team? Well, I mean, I kind of have an idea because we did some work with you as Bradford for Better.
Yeah.
But what was your sort of official remit when you started the job, and what were you actually doing?
So my official title was program and community coordinator. So I guess there's two sides to what I was doing. One was about engagement in a really wide sense. So making sure people across the whole district. So the title is City of Culture, but we're bidding as a district. So making sure people across the district, I guess, understood what City of Culture was, and most importantly, could feed in ideas. So that was a kind of community side of things. And then the program side of things was the bid is a bid document. It's a written document, and a bit of it is creative programs. So it's about what Bradford would want to do artistically if we were to win. So I was using all those conversations we were having with different communities, with artists, with businesses, to write up a program, which is an idea of what Bradford kind of would do if we won. There was another little bit of my role, which was to do with activities in the bidding period. So commissioning a few things, working with some artists to basically keep the momentum which is already going in Bradford, but to prove, we're busy making art. This is what could happen more if we were to win City of Culture. So quite a broad role, and I'd say the first 6 months, because of COVID, was a lot of conversations, and a lot of that was on Zoom. But yeah, so creative consultations, I was doing a lot, which has just been really interesting, really interesting. And then thankfully when COVID restrictions lifted, we were able to do more events, and that's how we met, through some real life in-person art happening. And so yeah, one of the things that I was looking at was yes, something happens in Bradford which is creative, ambitious, exciting and free, but how do we make sure that as many people as possible know about it and can access it?
Yeah. So from my personal perspective, I was involved with the stuff that you did, as well as B4B. And, personally, I think the part you played was huge. And it was great working with you. And one of the interesting things was that when the bid teams started initially, about 3 years ago, I think, the key areas, and we as Bradford for Better were approached and asked what we'd like to see and what we want to be kind of involved with. And the whole idea that we had was that we didn't want this to be just about a select group of people from a select background or a location in Bradford being part of this and not being a wider audience. And for it to be a genuinely district-wide encompassing bid, and entire Bradford and cultures, communities that wouldn't normally have access to this sort of stuff. And I think, to me, that was where you were involved, and you made that happen as part of the project that you were doing. And connecting cultures, the whole connecting cultures theme that you put together. How did you feel about that, and what were the sort of focus points of that?
Yeah, so Connecting Cultures was a project which I was really happy to be leading on. I applied for funding from the Morrison's Foundation Trust. So they fund projects with charitable aims. So I guess kind of even going back a few steps is this idea, which the bid team and I believe really strongly, that culture isn't just clapping at a performance, you've seen a good show. It's about communities coming together. It's about telling different stories, about telling your own, maybe. It's about kind of really it can be quite life-changing, and it can have a lot of benefits, social, health. You know, don't want to get too scientific on something which is essentially magic, but you know, it's not the idea that it's just this elitist art form and what we're trying to do is drive audience numbers. It's not about that. It's about connecting where creativity is happening already in Bradford, because bridging those differences, or bridging those differences in experience, is where it gets exciting, isn't it? And it's where we start to get to know each other and ourselves better, and it's where we can make progress from, right? Because we're communicating, so we can say what we want next, or who we want in charge, or where we want our kids to play. So Connecting Cultures, the title, was important because, again, it's not as if culture only happens in one place or is only presented by one type of person. So the idea was to connect communities to something that was happening, but it was also to look at what was already happening in those communities. So it isn't true just because someone doesn't go to the theatre that they don't engage with arts and culture. So it was kind of expanding that definition, I guess, which it makes, you know, it's a wordy way of saying it, but we know we all listen to music at home, or you know, you might go get your hair cut by someone who does, you know, really fine art at the barbers, and that kind of stuff is culture as well. So yeah, I felt really, really passionate, and a lot of the team did as well, and a lot of the people I was meeting a bit in Bradford, that our City of Culture year needed to be as inclusive and representative of our communities as possible. So it was a mini project, it was a pilot, wasn't it, that we worked on, and the question really was, how do we, what kind of barriers are there for people attending cultural events that are on in the city? What can we do to break down some of those barriers? And then what do people think about the art and culture? You know, how can, what makes it worth people's while, I guess, and what people like to see more of? So we focused on an event at Lister Mill, on that amazing chimney, which you can see from miles around. The BritBox put on the event, so we were one of the funders, but you know, they were the artistic lead on it, and so my role was just later on. It was later on. It was about building audiences, understanding of what's happening, and you and your team, Sohail, were really, really helpful in local, specifically around that kind of BD9 and that kind of area where there's something happening on your doorstep, but it's not a given that people know or want to be there. So we worked on a few different ways of connecting with people, didn't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. An important question. I know we all found out last week on the Tuesday when it was announced on the I'll probably put a clip on here as well, but when it was announced on TV, and we've discussed this as well previously, but when did you know? When did you not know, but when did you have a gut feeling that we'd got it? And how did you know?
Okay, so this was absolutely not a shoo-in. This was a hard competition. This was not something that you could be sure of throughout the process. It was hard. But when we hosted the judges in Bradford, so one of the bits of the process is that everyone that's shortlisted, which is 4, get a visit. And when we hosted that visit, I was on one of the buses. We did a bus tour and we dropped off at different points of Bradford. And that's when I knew it was like a cinematic tour of the district. You know, we were going through and it just looked beautiful. And it also looked real. And we did a bit of a walking tour around the centre as well. And I just thought the people that the judges met were so eloquent and passionate and funny and, you know, strong, actually. And then also some of the happenings that we didn't plan, like we were walking through the city and then someone came up to me and they were being a bit boisterous. Oh, who are these people? And I kind of, you know, I said, oh, well, we're on an important visit. And I tried to, I thought they might be a nuisance, basically. So, you know, I tried to say, like, leave us be, we're on a tour. And the guy was like, is this that 2025 stuff? And it was amazing that, you know, just people on the streets, we haven't won yet at this point. We're just bidding. But the fact that word had got out there, and yeah, I think some of those moments going around the district with the judges and seeing it through their eyes, I saw the gems, and I felt like we had got this. Do you know what I mean? And then we also had this lunch with unfortunately we couldn't invite everyone, but representatives from different sectors in the room at Salts Mill, and it just felt buzzing. And
from your insiders knowledge and being involved behind the scenes, what do you think got Bradford the win?
some of the things that were really at the front of the bid were young population, and we are the youngest in the UK, diverse population, and also diversity of the district. So diverse population in terms of ethnicity, where people come from, the languages people speak, but also diversity of the district. We've got rural, urban, and quite a range of different lives going on. And I think those two things put together are a really great combination of, right, what are you going to do creatively? I think it's an interesting kind of melting pot of what do we do with a very young population and a very diverse population. However, we wouldn't have won if it was just that. That's statistics, isn't it? That's kind of just a fact. So I think the final bit was our spirit, and I refer to it as magic, but it's that bit which you can't train. It's the humor. It's the challenging when things aren't going our way. It's doing things differently. It's it's the magic, and it's the creativity. And I think even B4B, like the way you've set up and evolved so quickly and galvanized so much, is such a creative city where people grow. Sprinkle of magic.
Yeah. Well, at that event last week when the chief judge was there, I asked him the question. I says, what got us the win? And I don't know whether he was half joking or what, but he said it was the people, it was the communities. And that's what was different about Bradford. It was that community spirit, and it was the fact that everybody, like you say, literally on the streets was talking about it and wanted it more than anywhere else. And I think that, and the whole work that you were doing with connecting cultures, that's what you tapped into. And that was the amazing thing about it, was that everybody was invested in this. Everybody wanted it.
I mean, we've got a lot of work to do before we can really say everybody. But I think you're absolutely right. The bid it's not just written by some consultants, there are a lot of people across the district who contributed to it. And it was too big to fail. Like, do you know what I mean? So many beautiful people have inputted. I think you're right. I think it was the people. Yeah.
So what happens now? I mean, yes, we've got city. What does it actually mean, first of all? And then what happens now? Because we're in 2022. It's a long way off. So do we just sort of forget about it and then wake up in 2025 with all singing and dancing, parades everywhere? Or what's going to happen next?
There's not that kind of magic in Bradford. I don't think we can just pop up. We've got a lot of work to do now. And actually, because of COVID, Coventry's year was delayed slightly. So normally you get 3 years. We've got 2.5. No, absolutely do not wait. We need to get cracking. So 2025 is the year when most activity happens. But the project, the whole thing really, I'll start with what is 2025. The whole thing really is a regeneration. It's a way to transform a place. So you put it on 1 year and you put all of your efforts into the creative interventions that year. But all of our arguments and all of the reasons why we want this is because of what happens after. So it's because of the legacy, the word is legacy, but because of the increased investment, the different behaviours, the mental health benefits, the tourism, that's the goal really. And to get there, we have an absolutely brilliant artistic year. So all of the other cities that were bidding would have been making the same kind of argument. Why would culture be the way to transform this place and to start to work towards what we need? So that's what City of Culture is. And from an outsider, someone that doesn't live in Bradford, what it is it's a whole programme of activities that you can come to that are quite distinctive to a place. So Hull had its year, which was very Hull. Coventry have had their year, which is very Coventry. And you can go and see local and international artists for a full calendar year. What was the second bit of the question? What happens next?
Yeah, what's the practicalities of what happens next now?
So the main next thing is recruitment. So the team that wrote the bid are never usually the same team that deliver. That happens in the other cities as well, because it's different skills, and the team needs to grow massively. So the first thing that's happening is recruitment. There's some jobs that will be going out really soon, so keep your eyes peeled. So there'll be some high up jobs about creative director, managing director, and then the team will build from now right until 2025. So the first thing is making sure that the Trust, which is the City of Culture team, is employing people that are going to drive this to the next stage. If we can, that will start to people will be in place by the autumn, and then more jobs at like lower down levels will probably be starting to be recruited by early next year. So it does take a little bit of time to get our ducks in line. What we can't afford to do is there to be a lull and to lose momentum. So as soon as possible, it's going to be about going back to the groups that were consulted to start with and expanding that reach about, right, we've got it now. What do you want to do? There'll also start to be funding coming out, because basically we've proposed a very bold program. We've proposed something happening, at scale every single month of that year. And we've proposed things happening at every corner of the district. So we need training opportunities to skill up producers, to skill up marketing staff. We need research opportunities for people who might want to do a project but need to test things out now. We need opportunities to collaborate, because a lot of what we're talking about isn't just Bradford focused. We want to work with artists from across the world. So there'll be opportunities coming out about creative collaborations. Yeah. So first bit's recruitment, second bit about different layers of involvement, whether that's applying for funding to do something. And then the third bit will be that actually activity will begin. So, things will start now, and it kind of already from bidding has been a momentum of things happening in the district, whether that's through the LEAP, through Bradford Council, through Bradford Producing Hub, and that doesn't stop. That's got to keep going.
Those people listening now, it could be youngsters, it could be people, of all different backgrounds. What does it actually mean to those people out there listening? If it was somebody who's 16, somebody who's 12, somebody who's 50 plus, 60, 70, those people out there in the communities, does it matter that there was City of Culture? What does it matter? Why does it matter? And what does it mean to those people out there?
I think in terms of meaning, for me, the most important thing is building some pride in Bradford, and building some confidence to be from and live maybe in Bradford, and to change the perception of what Bradford's about, what kind of people live there, what kind of things we do. We have now got the opportunity to, with dignity, talk really. We can be really proud of what's going to happen here. And I think for young people, that's massive, because a lot of young people feel like maybe to succeed, they have to leave Bradford. Or, I've had it when I've said I live in Bradford and people say, why? And actually, I think one of the things that will have a real impact is what Bradford means to people here and to people living outside Bradford. So yeah, that sense of pride, I think, will be important for communities. More practically, it will mean stuff happening. It will mean an events calendar of music and workshops and art. It will mean, when those summer holidays come and you finish your GCSEs, you don't have to run away to go to festivals. There'll be stuff happening in Bradford. It'll also mean routes into creative careers. I think the arts and creative industries can seem a bit like a bubble, or maybe a bit inaccessible, or the routes and pathways to get into that kind of work can feel you have to invest money or volunteer or move somewhere else. But locally, we can start to offer opportunities. So again, I'm talking to the young people, but it could be at any level of your career. There's going to be far more pathways into creative industries, courses, shadowing, volunteering, whatever that might be, so that careers can be built around arts and creative subjects. And the other thing, I think, on thinking about, you said, the communities out there, and sometimes I think of it as like veins and capillaries. There's Haworth, there's Keighley, there's BD1, and out from then there's all those smaller areas and estates. And so I think what also, because of the scale of Bradford 2025 place, we can do, there will be stuff happening in the parks and the kind of like those streets that don't always host the big activities. And that means some really important community connection at a time when we're all still probably hurting a bit from all the disconnection we've had from COVID. But bigger than that, we are living in quite a disconnected world. So if there's going to be chances to connect with neighbours and travel, someone might go from Ilkley to Leeds Road to see what's happening there, or someone, and those kind of journeys, whether they're just walking down the road or whether it's actually making a new destination in the district, will bring us together, I think, across communities.
It's bordering on sort of philosophical when we talk about some of these subjects, because if you look at Hull as a city, I remember one of the key areas that they talked about was coming out of the shadows. And I think it's very similar for Bradford. There's the last 25, 30 years, as long as I can remember, there's always been this shadow over the city, and a lot of negativity and a lot of bad press. And there's an entire generation who've not known anything different. The teenagers of today, they've not known anything different. And there's apathy and cynicism around the city. And I think with Bradford for Better, this is part of the reason where it came from, and it stems from the energy that there are those group of people, there are people that believe in better and want the city to be better. And this whole City of Culture journey, and the fact that we have got that win, it's absolutely huge for an entire generation. For an entire generation, we'll have that badge of honor and pride. And it's so profound in terms of psychology, or how it can change the psychology of an entire city or a district. Do you think, that's fair to say?
Yeah, I don't know if you, so the moment when we were in City Park, it's captured on the front of the T&A. I've got it over there, I'll get it. But anyways, a very young crowd at the front, and it wasn't a wee, it was a roar, and everyone's mouths are open wide. And just to hear Bradford on the news being awarded and being, given, like what it deserves, which is attention for who it is, it's huge. And it's not just stereotypes and lazy journalism. We've actually been, we've been kind of very, very harshly written about. It's hard to read about Bradford without people bringing up riots of 20 years ago. Like, it's unreal that we haven't been able to move on in the media. So even just the win, like you said, for young people that have kind of got used to how Bradford is shown in the media, it's already changed. It's already seeing those pictures and pointing at a success story and pointing at the faces of the people that were in that City Park when we found out. And that's gonna go times 100, times 1,000 now, because there'll be stories of all this cool stuff we're doing, and it is our words. That's what's so exciting. Like, they did a montage on Look North the day after we'd won, and it showed that moment, and it showed the young people there, and then it just dropped into a Bad Boy Chiller Crew track. And whatever you think of them, you know, they're very Bradford, aren't they? And they're very young, and to hear that soundtrack played on national media is quite exhilarating, to be taken seriously for what we are here. So yeah, and I guess, yeah, we could get really philosophical, and we could also go down the route of what that means in terms of investment opportunities, well-being. Like, it actually is quite tangible, some of that stuff as well. So it's big. Yeah, it's a big moment. I think the other thing that Sir Phil Redmond, who you met, who's the chair of the panel, he said to us, it was the day when we just announced, and he said, "This is the best day of the whole process." And obviously what he's saying there is there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of decisions to be made. And I want to be wary of saying this will be everything for everyone right now in 2025. This is the start of the change of our story, isn't it? So, you know, there are going to be compromises along the way, or whether that's budget or time. It's not the end, I guess, in 2025. It's kind of, it's a chance to try out some stuff. Yeah.
But part of that is that it's like passing an exam. It's like a driving test.
Yeah.
You've passed now, and you could do whatever you want, really. You could make it up, and you know, who's to say that, you know, what is 2025? You know, you could just make it all up, and you know, there is no real test as such, is there? Can they take it away?
I was going to say, we've got it now. They can't take it away from us.
Yeah.
Self-defined culture, self-defined, absolutely.
Yeah, just
No,
make it up as we go along.
Maybe not as we go along, but make it up in our way. Definitely.
Okay, so fast forward, if we're, you know, we travel in time and we're in 2025, what do you want to see in 2025 in terms of the practical stuff happening in that? What, for you personally, what do you want to see? And how would you define it as a success? You know, if we're in 2026 and we're looking back, what would be a successful 2025 City of Culture Bradford for you personally?
Yeah, okay, what do I want to see? Well, I am a kid of Bradford Festival in the olden days, and I'm a kid of going to the mailer, and I'm a kid of that feeling of going to events that feel bigger than you know, that are just, it's multi-art form. There's all sorts of things happening all at once. And a lot of those events have been brought up a lot, as you can imagine, as we're talking about things. So I want to see a new version of that, not bringing back those things, but what's the new way that we together en masse can celebrate. So yeah, festivals for me are really important, really, really important. They're like mini worlds, aren't they? And you try new food, you listen to different music, and you walk around. I like walking around an event where I'm going at my own speed. You know, it's not necessarily sat down and watch a performance. I'm exploring, and I think we're going to do that really well in 2025. And I think we can look at whether it's Pride Festival, whether it's an Eid celebration, and whatever it might be. I think we've got a lot of big moments that we can come together at. So that for me is what I'm excited about. And what is success? I think I'd like as many of the people. I'd like people to feel that they had seen themselves reflected in the programme and would say at the end of the year, yeah, I'm really into arts and culture, and see it as part of their life and not something that is a luxury, and really feel that they feel creative, or they interact creatively, because yeah, it's not an add-on. It's not suddenly going to happen because of 2025. It's already happening, but it's about everyone feeling part of it. That's what I would see as success. And I think in a really basic way, just taking a bow at the end. Round of applause. Yes, we did it, Bradford. That feeling of success, of pulling something off, and achieving. I think that's going to feel great.
Now, in my kind of line of work as a GP, as healthcare professional, there's a whole new idea called creative health. It's not new as such, but it's taking shape now within the NHS, and it's getting recognized as not just an add-on or an alternative therapy, but actually a core element of health and healing and well-being. And that involves, dancing, arts, poetry, writing, creativity in any form. And there's an increasing recognition that these things are actually part of well-being and our mental, physical health as well. So I think, what you're saying about people recognizing and seeing themselves in this, again, it's part of that legacy in the sense that people see it as an integral part of their being and the existence and the city, and not just something that just happens as a one-off and you move on with it. So it's great to see that and to be able to sort of move with that in that direction. Now, you personally, I mean, your background is dancing, and I know you've got interest and involvement in mental health. What's your thoughts on creative health, and what's your experiences of being involved in that well-being sector?
Yeah, I really agree with what you were saying about the impact on health, and it's almost embarrassing, isn't it, to have to talk about that. Like, kids play, kids dance, kids create, kids connect through all of those things, drawing, whatever it might be, and like adults, we're having to be told like to do it again, or we've lost time, or whatever it is, we've lost a connection with that. And so for me, I'm lucky in that it feels very natural, and I'm not a scientist and I can't explain exactly, what happens to my brain when I'm dancing, but I can see that it's a positive experience for me. And so I'm very lucky that I have that experience, and it's incredibly sad how distant some people have become from that. And I say again, it's not about going to see a dance show, is it? It's just about feeling like you can have a boogie when you want to. And so I guess my experience of the mental health and well-being impacts of art have always been as a kind of secondary. I've never come in from a clinical point of view, saying like, I'm not a trained therapist. I haven't had experience of working with people where I'm using necessarily like art as a tool for healing. However, that has happened. Of course it's happened. I've delivered with Dance United, who are based in Bradford. I work with them doing very intensive dance programs for young people. And yeah, we didn't say you're doing therapy here. We said you're learning a dance. But actually what we got from the young people was they started eating a little bit better. They started standing up a little bit straighter. They started talking to their parents about what they were doing in the day. And, all these impacts actually were very, very therapeutic. So I'm so passionate about it. I guess the other thing we spoke a little bit about before we were recording is I have worked on mental health projects. What I've done is I've worked with young people to feed into mental health strategies, or which is important, and I've learned a lot through it. But I do think that some of those processes themselves could be more creative, of how strategies are presented and written. And yeah, it is every single time say to young people, what is it? What do you live for? What do you do when you've got free time? It's so often arts and culture. It's so often making videos, or, so I don't think the two can be separated. But unfortunately, I do think we've got a bit of relearning to do as a society. And one of the things that we've written in the bid, and which is a real strength in Bradford, it's probably the work you're doing both as a GP and in the community, but also is the Born in Bradford study. So that's a longitudinal study of children growing up, and what we're going to be able to do with City of Culture is to monitor the impact of City of Culture on the lives of these young people. So I'm not a data person, but I know that data can be important for proving that point, and for learning the detail, I guess.
The focus within the NHS now about this whole creative health stuff, where they're beginning to recognize the importance of creativity in the well-being element. And I've been trying to say that for years in the stuff that we've been doing, filmmaking and writing and theatre stuff, and it's never been taken seriously, but now it is, and there's funding behind it and there's research. But like you say, it's common sense. It's absolute common sense, and it's kind of like human basic instincts. Kids do it all the time, yet we somehow, the way we've grown up in society is that when we're at school, it's kind of either you're the science kid or you're the arts kid, and never shall the two meet in the middle. It's always either you're going to do biology, chemistry, and physics, or you're going to do, whatever art subjects, history, literature, and all that sort of stuff. And why is that? Why can't they be together? And I think that's what's missing now in society, this whole creative. Tell us what this dance is, what it's all about, and what are the benefits, and what does it mean?
So yeah, I had a dance training, which meant that I had to learn steps, and I had to do exercises to make my body be a certain thing. But actually, the bits of dancing I enjoy are the bits where you're improvising or you're out dancing. I go out a lot, I like music. So when I graduated from dance school, I was less excited by auditioning to be in pieces. And I just felt the gift that I'd been given from those 3 years was that I could move in the way that I wanted to. So it's an improvisation. I don't do it much now, but I used to challenge myself to put the camera on and try and do a couple of minutes of just moving around.
Well, you say you're not a scientist. You don't need to be, because it's that feeling. It's a feeling that you get. It doesn't have to be scientifically explained or data research. Obviously it does when it comes to people putting funding behind it, but the reality is it's basic instincts of our human physiology, where when we move and we're in the groove and we're flowing, it releases so many chemicals that lift our mood, lift our sort of well-being, affect our brain, actually change the chemical makeup of our brain while our body moves in certain ways. And it's so profound and so basic, yet so little is it understood and practiced. So it really is. It's amazing.
And their relationship with our bodies can be so layered, can't it? When you're growing up and you go through puberty, or you're older and you have an illness, or there's so many reasons why you do get disconnected from your body. And again, I'm a very lucky person. I'm able-bodied. I can, I can move my forelimbs how I want to. But it's sad to not see people to not feel comfortable in your being, I guess.
Okay, so what else have we got? Any last words on the City of Culture?
It's our time and it's our place. So yeah, it's yet to be defined, some of that, so I guess anyone that's watching this, yes, culture is for you. Yes, there are opportunities to be involved in Bradford City of Culture, whatever that might be. Yes, it might feel new and weird, and there's things and words that you don't know or things you haven't tried, but that's exactly what it's about. It's about going to the next stage. It's about trying something different. And thank you to everyone that has been involved in getting us this bid, because it's definitely an us. It was a huge effort, like you said, in those first consultations 3 years ago. Thank you to everyone that's backed the bid, that's told their mates, that's sent ideas in. It's the people that's got us here. So get involved. That's what I say.
And again, on a personal note, and as Bradford for Better, I really want to let a lot of the people out there know that one of the amazing things about this team and the bid was that it was a listening bid. It was a listening. There's a difference between people sort of just, doing paperwork and shuffling papers about and doing surveys and collecting data, like you say. And there's a difference between that and actually listening and actually taking on board and adapting the bid. So it was such a sort of flexible bid, and it was sort of the way it moved and evolved, and it incorporated ideas and opinions and actually put them on the table. One of the examples was the Fasting Friday thing that we did, and it was a couple of phone calls between us, and what do you think? And we've got 2 or 3 weeks to put this together. And out this came this huge event of over 1,000 people of so many different faiths and cultures and communities, and that just came together in a number of weeks because the bid team and yourself, you were kind of malleable, you were kind of flexible and absorbing everything around that was going on. So that was the amazing thing.
And all we're doing is responsive to how you work as well, because you put things on in 3 weeks' time. You do a lot of stuff on WhatsApp. You are, embedded in a community, which means that you have to be responsive because the world changes quickly. So, yeah, it's nothing's carved in stone about what happens next. And yeah, the team will, try and stay as flexible as possible. But it's only made possible because of people like you that are also listening even deeper than we can within the people you're connected to in those communities. So yeah, it keeps moving. It's a dance, isn't it? The bid is a dance. It's got to keep nimble and agile. And one of the things, I went to a conference in Coventry. They were talking a bit about their year. They spoke about a faith project that they ran, and they had 3 different faith leaders there speaking about it. And it was so inspiring. And of course, faith, is big in Bradford, and we have many different ones. And the creative sides of those communities were really, they did a whole weekend of different stuff. So I was just thinking about your Fasting Friday, and what would be the next steps in 2025. And I think we've got some really great groundwork here and some lovely collaborations that have happened through the bid. Yeah.
Another thing interesting that I picked up last week when we were talking was, and again for those listening, the audience, there's this kind of idea a lot of people have that the bid, that it's kind of something very formal. It's kind of a group of people that sit down. It's very kind of top heavy, a hierarchy. It's one body, kind of like the NHS or Bradford Council. But actually, it's not. It's responsive. So the money, the way funding is going to happen and the way things are going to move is quite fluid in the way that it can be top down or bottom up. And you want to shed some light on how things would work. And because a lot of people might be sat there thinking, well, we can't get involved. How can we get it? I know what we're going to do about it. And it's like people are sat there waiting for a show to be put on. But actually, my experience of it is that it's us that have to define that show as a community. So what's your thoughts on that?
There'll be a bit of both, and there will be some, really exciting curators that will be on the team who will bring stuff in that we hadn't ever thought of. There'll be an international tour that will come to Bradford and have that feeling of like the circus arriving. And of course, there'll be some things that do just happen and it is a joy. But yeah, absolutely. The structure of the team, we couldn't do it on portrait. We'd have to do it on landscape. It's very much a team effort. And so there'll be not only kind of different specialisms within the team, whether that's community engagement, audience, access, we're looking at sustainability, fundraising, but there's also going to be lots of advisory groups, and we've trialed that so far in the bid. We had different advisory groups, but there's even more. So that would be a really great way for people to get involved who maybe don't have the time to work full time, but have a speciality and that could feed into strategy and funding streams. And so, yeah, there'll be multiple ones of them. There'll be a whole youth strand. So yeah, I think the key will be on sustainability, accessibility, youth, and creative ideas. So there'll be lots of ways to feed in there. And there's also open grants that will, so don't know what they are yet. So there might be some projects that the trust, like I said, curates and brings an international performer or artist in, but there will be open grants which will be available for anyone to apply for. Some of them will be around themes, some of them will be completely open, and some of them, that kind of thing will start to happen quite soon as well. It's not just about 2025. So it really is a dance, and there are gaps, and we do need. It's absolutely made by the people of Bradford. I think we maybe just now as well have been talking about people watching art, but just not forget that we're the creators as well.
Tell me, as a creative dancer, creative artist, what advice do you have for people out there, and what's it like being in the role that you're in? Because I know it's not well understood as a profession, when I was, from my cultural background and people from that sort of time, is if somebody says, if I was to say as a kid, I want to be a creative artist, I wouldn't know what that means, and I'll get a proper job. This is unfortunately that's still the case in many areas, especially in Bradford, because of the ethnic background of certain areas. It's not regarded as a proper job. It's not regarded as something that's really going to get you anywhere in life. What's your experience, and what advice do you have for people, and what's your journey been like? I mean, a lot of questions there, but just shed some light on those.
I guess I was lucky in a lot of ways, and I think it's, I went to university before the fees are what they are now. I was eligible for a lot of grants. I had parents that did say, yeah, that's all right, you can go and do dance. And I know a lot of parents would not say that. So I am in a very lucky position. However, it's not actually my degree, really, that has kind of got me working in the way that I do now. So I don't think a degree is necessarily the best route into the creative industries, unless you're really sure and really supported and have the finances. I don't think that's necessarily the route in. I think be true to yourself about what you enjoy, because what is the point in working in arts and culture if you're gonna not enjoy it, or trying to be doing someone else's art and culture, or what you think you might get? So start off from what you enjoy, and what you're good at, I guess. I think being open, one thing I did was I took on some roles which I wouldn't have necessarily. So I guess creativity goes depending on who you're working for. You can be creative in quite a few different roles in an organization. You don't actually have to be, I'm the presenting artist. So I produce, which quite often means doing a lot of logistics or setting up the space, but just giving that the weight that it deserves, that in itself is a creative role, and you are going to, create lighting that looks really, really great, or meet people who are creative. And so, I think sometimes those job titles in the arts can be a bit funny. What does producer mean? What does project manager mean? But look for the creative bits in the job description, which is often about people, working with people, which is always creative, and helping to support creative happenings. So for me, it was being in more of those roles that are like behind the scenes, I guess, where I realized, actually there's scope here to be really creative. It's a job. I've had to do quite short-term contracts and be able to have a bit of a white knuckle ride. You might not know what the next thing is. So I guess being really honest about that, being registered a freelancer and taking on different project-based work can be quite a up and down experience. So get yourself into a position where other bits in your life might feel more stable, if you're happy with where you're living and you've got support around you, then you can maybe take a bit of that, the highs and the lows in your career. Because it isn't always one straight route forward.
And I've had these discussions with other people in similar sort of jobs where you trained as a dancer and you're a creative artist, but I deal with kind of, I've had people in the film industry, kind of filmmakers, and what they don't realize, and I don't know what you want to share your experience on this is, but it comes a point where if you're a freelance, are you a limited company? Are you self-employed? Are you, the whole accounts and finances? It's like, do you ever get trained in any of that stuff? Or do you ever get any advice from anywhere? And you're expected to know all of that.
Yeah.
And then these days it's all about, who your own sort of public relations and how do you promote yourself and how do you, we were talking about the website and social media, and it's so much more than just being a dancer. You're a brand, and how do you maintain that brand financially? How do you, and what happened in COVID, there wasn't anything going on creative wise and physically, there wasn't anything. And how did you survive? If you weren't, able to be furloughed, and all of these conversations, they're so important, but very rarely, we only just see the sort of glitz and glamour of it.
Yeah.
And the reality of it behind the scenes. And is there any training for all of this? And do you ever get any support?
So in Bradford, there's a organisation called Bradford Producing Hub, and they are brilliant at stuff like that. So yeah, quite often in courses, whether it's a degree or any creative training, you don't get taught about registering self-employed, what an invoice should look like, how you do your tax return. But what Bradford Producing Hub have done is they've been doing a series of things called extracurricular, and you can log on. You don't have to sign up for all of them, but they've had one on finances, they've had one on doing an application, and so that would be one really practical bit of advice, is check them out. Another thing, again in Bradford, the Cultural Voice Forum is a forum which has got about, I think, over 400 people now, and that's people that work in the creative sector. But it would be a great place if you were just starting out as well, wanting to be in the creative sector. They meet every 6 weeks, and you would, I guess, get some really good networking there, because you'd start meeting people. But also they do sessions. So there was one recently where some people spoke about social media presence and how as an artist you make time for that, what kind of things are interesting, what gets lots of clicks on, what so those two organizations would be really key, I guess, for creatives at any level of their career, but particularly, if you feel like you've not had the experience of some of those things yet. Asking, I think it's quite a generous, I think in some ways it's quite a generous industry, because it's quite a lot of people focused work, and so asking for help, I would say, like, don't be scared to, because like you said, those skills aren't taught. So most people who are working in the creative industries probably had to ask someone else to help them with it. But yeah, me and you were just talking before we were recording about, I don't find being on Twitter on an evening very good for my health. But I do think that I'm probably missing out on opportunities, because the reality in 2022 is that stuff does come up like that. And I guess going back to what we were saying about following what you do, sometimes the things in your spare time that you might put on social media, then someone takes an interest, and it snowballs from there. And sometimes you can't predict it. You can't predict it's not the usual application process. It's actually being noticed for even your wit, on socials. Like, unfortunately, that is in the new way of connecting. So I'm going to have to book up my ideas and get a bit more savvy on socials.
There's so much that you've done. I mean, looking at your website, which again, you're probably going to update because it doesn't have anything to do with City of Culture on there. But besides that, you've done so much. As a project, what's the one thing that you're the most proud of?
The Wild Woods. So this was a project which was run by the BritBox in the old M&S, which has now been knocked down on Darley Street. It's where the market's going to be. But yeah, it was an empty department store, and the project was so I was production manager, and what we did was made a woodland inside M&S, which was going to be opened up for a series of free evening events. And that was my first taste at this kind of role. I'd been doing dance and youth work, and so it was a big step up to start to manage a lot of the practicalities. And I just loved it. I was up and down ladders. I was meeting people with different skills. I was we lit the whole we lit the whole of the room, or a lot of the room, with small battery torches, and I put quality street wrappers over the top to change the color. And I think because I was so new and fresh, I didn't know any other way of doing those things, and so that just was fun. It was just really, really fun. And then yeah, I was really proud of what happened in the end. There was lots of different activities happening, which the BritBox programmed, but for me the pride was in the environment, and the environment was magic. And those doors opened on a night, and it was free, and it was accessible, and you didn't have to all watch the same thing at the same time. You could go and explore around this environment. And yeah, that was life changing for me, because I'd never even have been able to imagine what it was when we started the project. So it was a really life lesson in trusting in that, trusting in other people. And I think it's had an impact even till now. I think that was maybe 6 years ago. And I'm still actually in connection with people that I met there, because it does become a meeting place. So the Wildwoods, yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I think it was great for Bradford as well. I think Darley Street was alive in a way that it hadn't been for a while, and that had an impact. Yeah.
Tell the audience, I mean, any potential employers or collaborators or people out there, how can we find the mysterious May? Where, what's the online? I know you've got a website.
Slippery May. I think I'm at May McQuade on Twitter and Instagram, or I might be at McQuade May.
Well, I'm going to put them on here. I'm going to put them all on here for people to look at, because you are a star and you've done so much to make Bradford better. So I think we need to shout out about the work you've done, and obviously the work you are going to do. So what's next? Where are you going next? What's happening next in your life?
Immediately next, I am training as a forest school instructor.
Wow.
So next week I'm going to the Lake District for the first week of training, and it's a 6-month course, not full time, but I'm really, just how we've been talking about the arts and how impactful it can be in people's lives, and how unfortunate it is we're kind of having to relearn that as adults. I feel the same about nature, and I feel like unfortunately we've become disconnected from nature. So I want to get some skills to be able to work outdoors. So that might be through art stuff, but it might also be youth work. So that's what I'm doing immediately. And I'm really open to work job opportunities for creative intervention outside, and bridging, those two bits of my life. I'm going to register freelance. I can imagine doing different kinds of projects in Bradford and also surrounding areas. I think it's important to be looking outwards as well. But yeah, I'm really keen to see. I don't know what I was going to say, really. What I do next. It is a bit of a question mark. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you just give one-word answers. No sort of sentences, just quick word answers. If this Radio 4 do that desert island discs type of thing.
Yeah.
So if you were stuck on a desert island and you were there for a year, okay, I'm going to ask you where would it be? So what place would it be on the planet? It doesn't have to be a desert island. Where would you want to be stuck for a year and you'd be happy to be stuck there? And where would it be? What food would you have? And if it was the same food for the whole year, what movie would you watch? What book would you take with you? What song would you listen to? And who or what would you take with you?
Wow. I swear people get quite a lot of time to prepare for Death Island Discs. I would be on a tropical island. I love seasons, and I'm ginger and I burn quickly. So I would need shade and rain as well as sunny days. It would be tropical and there would be mountains because I love climbing. I've always said, and I don't really know if it is true anymore, but that my album would be ABBA Gold. I know it's really sad, but I just used to dance to it when I was little, and I think that would keep me happy. I would eat like Chinese spicy noodle broth every day, 3 meals a
Oh,
day.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would read. Again, I'm going back to when I was a bit younger, but I absolutely love the Northern Lights trilogy.
Oh,
Philip
yeah.
Pullman.
Philip Pullman, yeah.
I could read them again.
Lyra.
Yeah, she's a hero. I don't know, what was the other question? What would I take with me?
Movie? What movie would you watch over and over again for a whole year?
God, I can't think of anything worse actually than I hate watching things twice.
Once? What movie would you want to watch?
I would watch sorry, Sohail, this is not the quick fire that you were looking for.
No, it's fine. Singing in the Rain.
Oh my God, I love Singing in the Rain. Yes, I would take. No, Singing in the Rain gets a bit crap halfway through, doesn't it? I'd watch, but a musical, maybe Sound of Music. I sound so lame on this, but yeah, Sound of Music.
So who or what would you take with you?
I'd take my bike, and I can't surf, but I'd take a surfboard and some massive speakers for a good dance. And who? I just take my pals. Just take a bunch of mates. Am I allowed then?
I don't know. We'll just make
Yeah,
it
I'll have a bunch of mates. Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, I didn't think this would be this long, but I'm enjoying it. I don't know about you, but
We could go on forever, and I
tell
feel
me,
weird.
I'm going to
feel-
wind up now. What's
Okay.
the, it has to be Bradford centric, you see, this whole B4B TV thing. So what's the best thing about Bradford?
It's people. My group of mates in Bradford are the best thing about Bradford. I'm really lucky to have a gang which just feels just people living really creative, vibrant, different lives. I'm queer, and a lot of my friends in Bradford are, and I think there's a scene which I really enjoy of those people, and the way that they live their lives. I just think wouldn't happen anywhere else, and a lot of people doing it for themselves, like a very DIY mentality of mucking in, making things, putting on nights, in having an open invite. And yeah, I feel the collection of people that are in my life wouldn't be in any other city. They're special.
What one thing, the whole idea of Bradford for Better, B4B, is about making Bradford better in some way. What one thing can you think of that would make Bradford better? One thing that you could change about Bradford that would make it better? Anything?
Really great public transport between different places, but also up to the hills. I feel like we've got such beautiful hills and moors, and I think it should be easier to get there. I know like Judy Woods has got an accessible part to it, so you can go with a buggy or on a wheelchair, and I think we need more of that. So I think, yeah, links.
That's a really interesting answer. For somebody who's creative, that's actually a very practical answer. I thought you were going to say more dance schools or more arts academies, but no, you want better buses. in Bradford. What an answer. Okay. And I think finally, what if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The thing I've wished for the most is to be able to click my fingers and be somewhere else. Yeah, I think I'd be able to move. God, it's just like wishing for better buses, isn't it? It's just transportation.
Well, you won't need buses if you had that superpower, would you really?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, that'd be my superpower, to pop up in different places instantly.
It's like Star Trek then, just beam you everywhere across the universe.
Yeah. Not beaming me, no. There's only one of me, and I'd go to different places.
Okay, not cloning you.
Not a clone, no.
Okay,
I don't think that would help.
That's doable. I'm sure we'll get there by 2025. We'll have some technology that'll move you around without any need for buses.
Right. Oh, thanks. I feel like it's obviously a one-sided conversation because you're asking me questions, but it feels rude.
You can ask me questions. You're welcome to ask me any questions you want.
It's 6:30 now, but yeah, what's your, as Bradford for Better is your organisation that you work with, what would be your one thing, Bradford for Better? What would make Bradford better?
Now you've put me on the spot, haven't you? For somebody who tries to make Bradford better, I should know the answer to that, but there isn't one answer. I think for me, it all starts up here. It all starts up here in the mind. We are what we believe. And if we believe in better, I think that's the first step. And if every single person in Bradford and the people of Bradford started believing in better and believing in ourselves as people, as a city, as a community, that's where everything starts. You are what you believe. You are what you believe. And this City of Culture, I think, is that one big leap towards that self-belief.
Yeah.
I just made that up, by the way. I just made it up.
No, well, it sounds great.
I just made it up on the spot.
Just got to believe. I believe in fairies, definitely.
Yeah. So thank you very much, May. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think we could talk for another 2 hours and have 5 more episodes on this. And maybe we should. Maybe we should.
Maybe
see
we
you again in a few months and see, once you qualified as a forest school practitioner, see what life's like then.
Yes.
It's been amazing, and thank you very much. And thank you for everything that you've done. Actually, that reminds me, I've got something for you. I'm going to send it in the chat here. So I'm going to put it on the screen. Can we attach things on here? Can you see that there?
Certificate for making Bradford better. No way.
That's a certificate of appreciation from Bradford for Better for getting us the City of Culture, part of your role there, and you've been a huge part of it. So we are very grateful to you as Bradford for Better and the City of Bradford. And I think people should know that, and people should know who you are. So if you see May on the street walking somewhere, make sure you get her autograph.
I'm going to frame this. Thank you.
And a selfie with you as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That is really, really, really kind of you. And
you're getting emotional, aren't you, with this certificate? You're going to frame that and put it on the wall.
I normally get most improved. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sohail. It's been lush to talk to you. And yeah, let's do it again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You've been watching B4B TV. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And join us next time for another episode.